Hey, listeners. I won't waste much of your time. I just wanted to let you know that the response to Flop TV Season 2 has been so overwhelming that we're keeping the shows available through mid-March so that folks who got their tickets later in the season have a little extra time to check out the shows before they go away. And if anyone wants to go to theflophouse.simpletix.com at the last minute and squeeze in a binge watch, you can do that too. Just be sure to watch before midnight Eastern Time on Sunday, March 16. Okay, now the show. On this episode, we discuss Star Trek, Section 31.
The least popular Star Trek movie since Star Trek C-Section.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Flophouse. I'm Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
I'm Elliot Kalin.
And joining us, we have the hosts of The Greatest Generation and The Greatest Trek, two Trek podcasts. Name yourselves.
I'm Ben Harrison.
I'm Adam Pranica.
That's right.
you
It is a Max Fun
taking my challenge.
crossover. That's right. It's time for one podcast to visit another podcast and act like it'll be like the time when Urkel turned up on Step by Step, and it was like,
Oh,
what?
man.
These are happening in the same universe? This
Or
is
it's like-
insane.
Or it's like Star Trek Generations to keep
Not
it
familiar.
within the...
Don't know what
Urkel
that
shows
is.
up in fucking Star Trek Generations.
I mean,
He changes uniform halfway through the movie, and it's never
Yeah.
clear why.
Because he's cool.
Reginald
we're on the
Vell
subject of
Johnson
Star
is
Trek.
also in that movie. If you
Now, when they're on the
close
subject of
attention.
Star Trek crossovers, have you guys covered on your podcast the series of novels where the X-Men meet the characters from Star Trek, or no?
I didn't know that there were novels of that. I thought it was just comic books.
No,
Is
there's at least 2 or 3 novels
Wow.
of the X-Men characters on the Enterprise. I don't know if they're all on the Enterprise, but I assume so. That's more fun than the Star Trek characters going to a school.
Do the bullies even waste their time with the kids who are holding that novel? Like going in between classes? They probably just skip them,
They
right?
said
Life
life
will
is
grind
already
you down.
Yeah.
yeah, life is doing what we would do.
I have always wondered if a phaser or Cyclops' plasma ray is more powerful, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, could Cyclops punch through the hull? Could he vaporize a pot that is surrounding a bunch of mashed potatoes
Well,
without vaporizing the mashed potatoes?
Guess what, Ben? There's a series of novels that I think are going to answer those questions for you.
But also, similarly, isn't Cyclops able to sort of like, doesn't his visor, allow him to be like, I'm going to set it to stun, essentially.
I thought
No.
he just wore that shit
Does he?
for
Doesn't?
style.
It's just like,
Well,
it's
he
just
can
like
open it-
total
he can-
blastify or
No, he can't open it
blasting?
wider or less wide to
Okay.
affect the intensity of the beam. That's true. But also, he needs the power of the sun to build up his optic blast. So it's possible if he's on the Star Trek Enterprise that he's running out of power. There's no sunlight there that I
feel
know
like-
of, right?
I feel like they got to get Forge on this. This seems like a perfect project for that guy.
No.
Yeah.
He's got some serious work to do on the Blackbird.
So this is an X-Men podcast where we talk about X-Men stuff.
Will the Blackbird fit in the shuttle bay, or do they have to like modify it with like folding wings?
Ben, I feel like there's a series of novels that are going to answer those questions.
So, okay. To return to what we actually do on this podcast, which was a podcast where we watch a bad movie and then we talk about it. This is a movie, in quotes,
Yep.
in that it is movie length, and it was advertised as a movie on the Paramount Plus streaming service.
Because it doesn't look like a movie.
Or feel
It
like
does
a
have
movie.
at least one movie star in it.
It's not. It does have one of the biggest movie stars in the world in it, but it's not really
Yeah.
structured like a movie. And
No, it's more like an abandoned series idea, perhaps.
It does-
Sort of
I mean,
shaped-
it does very much feel like when they would, and which it is, when they would create the pilot for a new TV show, and then they had no interest in actually picking it up, so they would show it on network TV as a special.
Right.
Yeah.
And those specials always ended with the promise of more adventures, which would never happen.
Yeah, like
and-
when's the rest of the adventures of the Mulholland Drive crew gonna happen?
Mulholland Drive, the
My
new class?
buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So Ben and Adam, you're Star Trek experts. I won't even say Star Trek experts or sexperts. Star Trek Section 31. This is There's so many concepts in this movie, and I'll be in the summary today, but there's so many concepts in the movie I was not familiar with as a very amateur Trek knowing about her. And so for people who know it well, were you watching this in understanding it better, or were you watching it in a greater sense of horror than I might, because I'm not as engaged in the series?
That's such a great question, and part of why I was excited to talk about this movie in particular with the Flophouse, because as somebody who's watched all of the ancillary material that leads up to the events of this film, it's hard for me to imagine what it is like coming to this with no context.
Well, I can tell you that when I saw the ads for it, I was like, huh. So there's sort of a black ops thing within the world of Star Trek. And doesn't that break the idea of Star Trek, this utopian federation? And then I learned that it is something that comes out of one of the series. Although I guess they're sort of not officially part of the Federation. The Federation just turns a blind eye to them. This is all stuff that I learned after the fact by reading stuff online rather than experiencing it. So
I definitely had to go to Wikipedia for quite a bit of explanation. But I was not aware that Section 31 was a thing that pre-existed this movie. But the movie really takes it for granted that you know.
Right. I mean, anytime you make a movie, that's what you want, right? You want your audience to have to do a bunch of homework in order to get what you're trying to do.
I don't know if I've done this much homework for a mainstream piece of popular entertainment since I read Grant Morrison's Death of Bruce Wayne miniseries or whatever it was, where he's referencing all these different old Batman stories. And I was like, I shouldn't have to be looking up on reference materials to understand what's going on in a Batman comic book. Right. And I kind of felt like that with this too.
When are they going to release the annotated Batman comic book?
Yeah, I shouldn't need annotations for this.
I knew Elliot was running our summary, and I texted him because also I feel like you need to do research to have any sympathy for the main character, who Elliot explained to me through his research has a longer redemption arc on the series, so maybe it's easier to.
I might argue the more you know about the main character, the less sympathy you could ever have.
I feel like the most sympathetic thing that they did, which was smart, is they cast Michelle Yeoh, an amazing movie star.
Yes, one of the greatest movie stars in the world.
She killed a bunch of people. I'm still ride or die.
And looking at the making of this, it feels like this movie probably would not have happened if she had not won an Academy Award between the beginning of the development and the production of this movie. Basically, I think they probably would have. It was supposed to be a spin-off series starring her. Yes. And I think they kind of, I think they were in the midst of dropping it when she won an Academy Award, and they were like, and now we need to make it.
Oh, is that what happened? I assumed that the idea that it was we were going to make this series. Oh, now we can't afford Michelle Yeoh. So
I mean, maybe there's a little bit of that too. It can't be a series, but it can be a movie. Well, let's talk about it. So Michelle Yeoh, she's playing a character named Philippa Georgiou, which is, I don't know why, but I find it to be hilarious.
Hey,
especially
massive genocide.
Amari Hardwick puts a lot of emphasis. He puts a lot of juice on that last syllable of Georgia. He's like, Giorgio! Every time.
And so let's but rather than explain that character right off the bat, let's replicate the experience of me and Dan and Stuart watching this movie with not knowing what's going on. And you guys, Adam and Ben, please chime in when it feels like something needs explaining, which is all the time. So we open with, I will say, this was basically like a
We're going to be the Adam Conover of this episode. They're like, well, actually.
Yes, very much so. Thank you. And I'll be like, I don't know why I have an issue with what he's doing. The things he's saying are true. This movie, it started out as I believe as development for a television series, much like Moana 2 started out as a Moana television series and then became a movie instead.
Also a perfect film.
Did Moana also genocide
episodic.
A bunch of people?
Yeah, there's a genocide sequence in it. Moana murdered her parents. Also, they had it coming.
Exactly. So the movie starts with text on screen. I love it. It says, "Fate, who makes the sword, ... does the forging in advance. Aeschylus." And I kind of get why this quote has to do with the rest of the movie, but I don't really fully understand it, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. It's just part of Star Trek being the classy of the two space opera shows. Because Star Wars, they're not going to start with an Aeschylus quote. Instead, it's going to be like, "Fear not, Yoda." And it'll be like, okay, well, that's a character from the movie.
Well, I mean, they do start with words on the screen.
Is this an episode of The fucking Wire, or are they putting one of the characters from the show's quotes?
One of the things that I always found weird about The Wire is to start with a quote from an character in that episode. But we start where it's the Terran Empire, which again was a thing I did not know what it is, but I guess it's some kind of alternate dimension where instead of the Federation, there's like a mean, bad empire that defeats things. It felt I kept imagining it in my head being like the Imperial Ratch from Anne Lackey's ancillary novels, which are a great series of novels. It made me so want to
those novels.
Read those instead. So the Terran Empire.
The Terran Empire in TOS terms are Spock with goatee. So if you've ever seen Spock with goatee.
So by TOS you mean the original series.
Right.
So yeah, looking it up, I guess that's the Mirror Universe because it's the Mirror episode.
And everyone in it has the same job, but they're really bad.
They're all. It's like everyone.
Awesome.
Everyone's the same,
Awesome.
except they're evil and sexier too, right?
They're sexy, and I'm not saying they're bad at their job. They're good at their job, which is being bad.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yes.
I don't believe that a universe full of people being bad is going to be a functioning universe.
I assume that means the bad people in our universe are good in that universe. That's my guess. But since all the Star Trek characters are always good, I guess we never see.
Right.
We only see the bad versions, the alternate universe. So we're in a rural village.
So Jeffrey Combs would have to play good guys all the time.
Exactly.
In the Mirror Universe.
And he'd never wear makeup.
Yeah.
So
the makeup wears him.
we're in a rural village. There's a blacksmith, woman picking crops, all the stuff that tells us this is a rural place. A woman shows up. She's a young woman. She's been away for 2 years as part of a sort of battle royale.
It's a Hunger Games.
It's a Hunger Games, except if the winner of the Hunger Games goes on to become the emperor, basically. And this
Which is a remarkably organized succession plan for a universe as evil as the Mirror Universe.
Except it's also a terrible idea because it's like the same skills that allow you to kill other people and survive, I assume the wilderness or something, are not the same skills that are great for managing a galactic bureaucracy, understanding
Elliot prefers
trade
his
and
leaders
taxation.
to be, TV hosts and billionaires.
Exactly.
Right.
Someone who's run a business, Stuart. Someone who understands how a business works. Yeah, exactly.
None of the partners in law firms have gotten management degrees either, Elliot.
Yeah, Elliot.
Let's steer away from that. And let me ask, this just happens when there's like a power vacuum, right? Though they're not like every year we gotta
I assumed every time an emperor
royale.
died, they did this.
I know, that's what I'm saying, when there's a vacuum.
The emperor doesn't. It's not patrilineal or anything. There's like a proctor that has enough power to run this 2-year-long competition and then find the person.
Is this
I
what the
guess so.
conclave is about? I haven't seen the conclave.
It is like
but,
Conclave, except there's more vaping in Conclave.
All right,
Yeah,
so
and a
I
lot
don't need to
less
see that
killing.
movie if I saw this one. It sounds
Yeah.
like.
So she's come back. She's won the battle royale. This woman, Philippa Giorgio, and only her and another combatant, a guy named San, they survived because they worked together, or San, as I would say it being from New Jersey. They survived because they worked together. One of them will become the new emperor. There's just one final test, and Giorgio passes it by poisoning her family because she can have no ties if she's the emperor. And this is shot with what I would call a lot of unnecessary style, a lot of golden light, slow-mo.
Describes the movie, Elliot.
Yeah,
There's a
Dutch
lot
angles.
of spin around shots, or
Yes, a lot of spin around shots.
is this a drone or is this a digital drone? What's going on here?
Yeah. And as soon as she does that, a ton of troops beam down and they're like, you succeeded where San failed. And now he has to serve you as a slave forever. And she's the emperor now and she renounces their friendship. And she takes a sword and puts it in a heating, the coals of a hot brazier and then slaps it against his face to burn his scarred face. Then the movie does something a little jarring, which is that as if this was a video game you were playing, it suddenly turns into a priority message addressed to you, explaining what happened to this character between that scene and this movie. And they're like, priority message, Section 31, Emperor Giorgio is from a parallel dimension. She was brought to our dimension and joined Section 31. Then she disappeared. She's been seen in Federation space. And I'm like, this is a lot. This is a lot to suddenly tell me.
Did this clear anything up for you guys as newbies to the franchise?
Not really. They're basically like, I guess they're telling us, is this her arc basically on the television show? Is like she comes over, she was a genocidal madwoman, she's Hitler on a galactic scale, but she comes over and kind of like does her time as a spy, and that is a redemption thing. Like what happens basically? Yeah.
So there are I think 3 seasons of the series Star Trek Discovery where she is a character, and when we first meet her, we meet the Prime Universe version of her, and she is the captain of the ship that Sonequa Martin Green's character, Michael Burnham, is the first officer on. And Michael Burnham has a whole redemption arc surrounding committing mutiny against Philippa Giorgio, her beloved captain. and then they go on a bunch of adventures that land them on the wrong side of the divide between the two universes, and they discover the horrifying truth that her beloved captain's doppelganger in the mirror universe is Space Hitler. And so,
Spitler, yeah.
Right. And so they
Spitler's
wind
the
up...
main character from the porn version, Section 31. SEX. You know?
This ain't Star Trek, :
You get it. You get it.
So and then she like joins them, like she goes on adventures with them, or they're trying to stop her, or what?
They have to stop this other captain who is a mirror universe person that's been imitating. He's an identity thief, essentially. He's taken the identity of his prime universe counterpart, and so Philippa Georgiou is instrumental in finishing the Federation's war with the Klingon Empire and resolving it in a way that makes the Klingons ripe to be made into allies eventually. But yeah, like it's a lot to go through. Like
it sounds
for
like
a series that has like 13 episodes a season, it is like so fucking convoluted.
Elliot, to jump back a little bit, when you said, and now the movie does something jarring, I thought you were going to say it indicates that this is going to be your hero. This
that too.
woman who kills her family and then goes on to be a genocidal maniac ruler.
Well,
you see her do horrible things in the show, and then like somehow the show wants you to feel bad for her when they also do time travel, and they're like, you can't jump to a universe and then travel in time. That's really bad for you. So you're going to have to travel back to your own time period at the very minimum.
That's the least. That's the slap of the wrist for sure. That's the least we can do. It does feel like, but they keep talking throughout the movie about how you killed billions, like you were a monster, and it does. But then by the end, she's just part of the gang. Spoiler alert. And it does feel like if in the new Mission Impossible movie, they're like, you got a new recruit, Pol Pot. And he's like, well, Pol Pot, I don't like you. But by the end of it, Pol Pot is so cool and such a great fighter and so suave that there's even like sexual tension between Pol Pot and Ethan Hunt. Like that's what this movie feels like.
Pol Pot's a brunette, apparently.
But Pol would be spelled P-O-L-E in that version.
I don't know if you're going to stab me in the back or bed me down, but that's kind of what I like about you, Pol Pot.
Exactly, yeah. So Section 31, I guess, is the kind of Black Ops scene we were talking about, and they have to find her and also stop a terrorist, and they have 24 hours to complete this mission. And it was this moment, it felt like I was either it had turned into a video game that I was supposed to play, or I had stepped into a sequel that I was like, was there Star Trek Section through Star Trek Section 30? Like, is it like it? I've heard of info dumps, but usually they are like either this kind of thing is at the very beginning of the movie, or it is a character like saying.
Admit it, you just wanted it to be scrolling at a weird angle away from the camera.
I would have loved it more. If it was scrolling at a weird angle across a field of stars, I would have been like, this is how you tell a movie. Like, this is a space opera. Come on.
I watch a lot of television. My wife tries out every single new drama series, every comedy series. She loves it. And so I end up watching a lot of pilots of things. And this felt very much like a pilot in that it's like, there's so much information, so much backstory that's either implied or directly said, and they're like, don't worry about all this. We're just going to keep talking and throw you right into the action.
Yeah.
So there is a feeling like I don't know what the fuck is going on, but maybe my brain has been like messed over by watching all this bad television writing.
Yeah, well, I mean, the action that they throw you into is largely theoretical is the problem,
well,
too.
Let's talk about the action that they throw you into, because this is a real twisty-turny plot, guys. There's a lot of ins and outs and betrayals. So we go to a space nightclub that Georgiou runs on the edge of Federation space.
I do like the outfits. I do like the outfits and the design of this space bar. I think the design of the bar is cool.
And
it's space bar on my laptop? Thank you.
Yeah. It's rectangular. Did you have to get that custom, Dan?
I did. Okay. It fitted my machine.
Yeah, it looks wider than normal. Is it because of you have a thumb issue, or do you just like a nice wide bar?
I like a girthy space bar. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, Dan likes his space bars.
You brought the attention, Dan.
Space bars.
I did.
Then you got embarrassed.
I've never seen one ribbed like that, Dan.
That's for his
my
pleasure. Yeah. Dan likes to tiptoe to the edge of kink, and then Stuart likes to push him over. So Giorgio's there under the name Madame Veronique Dufranc, and it's like it's just like it's a cool looking space bar, and I have to assume because they imply at the end this would be their home base if this was a series that they would be at this space bar. Someone wants to talk to her, a mystery man who appears to be a drug supplier named Alok Sahar. But she identifies him right away as a Section 31 agent. She's already ID'd all the agents he has with him at the bar. She does not want to help them, but he threatens to arrest her if she doesn't. And she's like, I could kill you right now, but I'll do it. Okay. Like it's going for a game of like, we're forced to work together, cat and mouse. You don't want to do this, and I don't want to do it. Yeah. But everyone is so easygoing. Yes. They're so laid back throughout the entirety of the movie.
Well, they're very high at this point. And we don't know how long this drug takes to wear off. So it could be that they remain profoundly high for the rest of the experience that they have together.
Yeah, I want to say about these characters that we meet, right? Like,
and I'm about to run down them, but Dan, say what you're going to say. Yeah.
Well, they're all sort of like in disguise because they're in the bar, but all but one of them mostly look how they normally look, except like one of the women has a very different wig and makeup, and I found it extremely confusing because when you're first introducing a character, you usually don't introduce them looking vastly different, and then like later on in a different scene, I'm like, wait, that's the same lady? Yeah. And then at the end of the movie, when they're back in the bar, she's back in the wig and makeup. I'm like, why?
In that disguise.
Yeah.
Why did that happen?
If you are going to introduce a character in disguise, you should show them removing the disguise so that your brain processes.
I will say, to defend that character, that's Lieutenant Rachel Garrett, who's an uptight Starfleet officer when we meet her. And I do like the idea that she's the only one who's like, I have to go all out with my disguise. That's Section 31, by the book,
And she's played by the actress who played
Abigail Hobbs.
Abigail Hobbs from Hannibal. Yeah. That was awesome.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's meet our team.
Remember Hannibal? That's a good show,
What a great show. Oh, man. I love that show. And you know what they didn't do? They didn't do like then a spin-off movie about like Gillian Anderson's like therapist or something. I would have watched it, but it wouldn't have been very good. They were like that series reached the perfect ending beat, and then it was just done. They said we told our story. Anyway, let's meet the team. Let's meet Alok's team. Alok does not have much personality. He's just kind of like
very handsome.
He's
Omari
very handsome.
Hardwick is very handsem.
He is, but he's just the tough leader of the team. Let's meet his team. There's Mel, a sexy Delton with seduction powers. Don't get attached to Mel. She's not going to be in a lot of the movie.
She gets roasted, yeah.
There's Zeph, who has body armor all over him, and he's kind of dumb, and he's like, I forget, is he in the bar in his body armor? Like he doesn't have a disguise? He's just there in his body armor?
It seems like he takes some of it off sometimes.
I mean, not to leap too far ahead, but when Zeph died, I was I was sad when Mel died, very excited when Zeph died. Because I'm like, you had nothing going on. You were just a guy with a robo suit.
Guys, I'm saying this from somebody who has played in a lot of role-playing games. There are too many accents in this movie.
There are a lot of accents,
including a microbe that is inside a Vulcan robot with an Irish accent, and I'm like, is the microbe Irish
too? Yeah, like
what is going on?
He's just Irish. So there's you're talking about Fuzz. He's a tiny alien, which is what, a Nanokin or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's a almost microscopic alien who is in a tiny little spaceship inside of a robot Vulcan body. So he presents as Vulcan for most of the movie, but every now and then they'll zoom in real close to his face inside his little micro spaceship, and he'll be just like, "Oh, Faith and Bagora, oh no." Me Vulcan body, and it's
Get your hands off me, Lucky Charm.
And whenever you're up close to him, it always feels weird and it's always jarring. And
I do appreciate that they got a rubber suit together for the guy inside the thing, though. It's not just like a bad CG thing.
That's true. Okay. It's a physical object, and then there's Quasi, played by the great Sam Richardson, who is a shapeshifter who is also he's also the really smart guy who can't make decisions. He gets overwhelmed by choices. And of course, and I mentioned Lieutenant Rachel Garrett, uptight Starfleet officer who wants to do everything by the book. How did she even end up with this group? Maybe that's something we would dig into in future episodes.
Guys, I've been watching a lot of episodes of Slow Horses lately because, I'm getting older. It's a great show, and I'm getting older. I'm morphing into a dad. I'm listening to a lot of Steely Dan.
It's a good dad show.
Hey, Stu.
Yeah.
I'm an actual dad, and I've been reading the books of Slow Horses.
Wow, that's a real dad move.
So what I'm saying is that my brain is very wired into the idea of like a ragtag team doing espionage shit. And so I was obviously a little bit disappointed by what ensues. But look,
There's not a lot of espionage.
just setting the stage.
So they want to stop a biological arms dealer with the hilarious name of Dada No, which is, or Dada
yes,
No.
baby.
Dada No, which every time they said it, I was like, they can't be the character's name. You can't have a character named Dada No. It's
Charlene has repeated the name multiple times while we watch the movie.
like, you might as well just give him a name from the movie Cats and just be like, silly name. Yep. We're after McCavity. We're after Bombalurina.
Fun thing I found in my research was the writer in an interview with one of the like Trek news outlets was like, yeah, we just loved the character Dada No. So we had all the episodes written for the series, and we just were like, we got to get that guy into the movie.
There's almost no character there. Like he's so incredibly like, I wonder in the writers' room they must have had some bit about Dada No that was really hilarious that does not translate to the show. So they want to stop Dada No. He's trying to pass off to a buyer some what they think is some kind of terrorist weapon. And Alok goes over their plan in detail, and we see them acting it out. And then Philippa goes, "Nah, I don't like that plan. We're going to do something else." And I was like, "Oh, okay, so that was filler." what I just saw.
Well, I mean, it does a very specific thing. It is that classic thing of anytime you fully explain a plan, that is not what's going to happen.
Yes, it's going to fall apart.
It also highlights what everybody's unique abilities are and why they all have to use them.
And it shows her like cutting the knot, being like, no, the reason you want me on the team is I have a much easier way of doing this. I'm smarter than you guys.
But it's like the Walter Sobchak plan. It's like, I'm going to grab him and beat it out of him.
Yeah, our plan is not intricate. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I own this place to beat him up. Yeah.
Well, and I own this magic device, and that device I actually thought was kind of one of the few cool ideas on the show.
Let's talk about that device.
On the movie.
So instead, she goes up to Dada No, and she's as a hostess, and then she uses her phase pods. She throws one at the weapon case and one at herself, and now she is out of phase. She is vibrating at a different wavelength or speed than the rest of reality. I like that a lot. That's very Lovecraft.
Let's go find the goof section. So if you make a little box thing out of phase with reality, is it just going to phase through the floor? Nope, it lands on the floor as normal.
It does land on the floor like normal. The thing inside it is also affected by the phase field, so it doesn't fall out of that. It doesn't just phase
she owns the bar, so much like the bar you own, you've fitted the floor out with a special
technology.
Yes, exactly.
Now, here's the thing. Is it affected by the artificial gravity, in which case I guess it falls to the floor, but wouldn't it fall to the center of wherever the gravity is?
I mean, it should just hang in the air because it
float in the
shouldn't be
air.
affected by that gravity. Yeah, we fixed it.
Did they explain this in Star Trek world, guys?
Is this a thing?
Amusement park?
Yeah.
No, I think after this episode, we're probably going to stop talking about Star Trek in general.
Oh, wow.
We've shamed
Wow,
you
we
out
did
of it.
I found this moment very hurtful personally because I had an ex-girlfriend tell me that we just didn't vibrate at the same frequency before breaking up. So
that's sad. That's sad. So they then a masked assassin who is phased at the right wavelength to steal the pod or the box comes in. They have an action fight, and I didn't enjoy this, but I did think it was funny of them to do the classic 80s Tango and Cash thing of the action fight causes them to burst through the wall of a room where two aliens are having sex with each other, which is in Tango and Cash, every action scene just about they bump into somebody who's having sex in another part of the room.
I'm not mad at it.
No, I'm not. So fight. In the fight, unfortunately, Mel gets vaporized. Sorry, Mel. We hardly knew ye. There goes the character who is all about seduction. The masked fighter gets away.
I also like that they fight for a while on the stage, and everybody in the bar interprets it as part of the show, and they're like, "Yeah, this
like
rules."
Ninja Turtles 2. This is great. Space Vanilla Ice comes out. Phasing, rap, phasing. That's what they should have done. And
she's called Giorgio when she's in control.
Yep.
The masked fighter gets away with the case, and Giorgio is like, I thought I destroyed that thing.
I'm sitting next to Vanilla Sherbet over here, and he's cooking up some rhymes. He'll be dropping them on us later.
That's a reference to our Secret of the Ooze Flop TV show. That's
Yeah, if you want to know the full
I
story
like
of
it.
Vanilla Sherbet, go to Flop TV season 2, episode 6.
I'm sprinkling out Easter eggs for the true freaks out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the true flop freaks. So
Castle
flashback,
freaks like Giorgio.
like Philippa Giorgio. Speaking of, let's go to when she was in a castle.
I bet she has ripped off plenty of ding dongs in her day.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
There's
for
a scene
sure.
in the TV show where she eats a guy's threat ganglia, which are like a intimate body part that only get exposed when they experience fear. So, yeah, I totally believe it.
See, man, I gotta watch this show.
Oh yeah, it sounds amazing. So based on this movie, so they flash back to when she was in her own castle, when she was empress, and San gives her this object, and he's like, "We made that weapon you asked for. Then all your engineers killed themselves because they were so ashamed." And it's like, so they couldn't kill themselves before they made the super weapon, but okay. And he goes, "You become a monster,"
plan on that.
and he gives himself the same poison and seems to die at her feet.
I mean, the argument most likely. I don't want to jump ahead, but I would imagine San gave them the poison and killed them.
Oh, that's possible too. But again, he couldn't do that before they made the weapon.
No, he wants the weapon though.
Except
But
that
then why does he take it then? He like fakes his own death.
Why does he bother faking his death and
He's
bringing
playing
it to her?
three-dimensional chess, guys. I can't explain it.
Yeah, but sometimes
right.
you just need to play tic-tac-toe. You don't tic-tac-toe?
TikTok.
Yeah, tic-tac-toe, it's the new game the young people love, but it's
Yeah, but
Chinese, so we got to ban it, Dan.
It's been banned, and then like the Supreme Court upheld the ban, but it's still there for some reason.
We live in a world without law right now. This is not a country of laws. So this president was like, I'll allow it. And of course, he's king now, as he stated in a Truth Social post. So there's nothing we can do about it.
Look,
That's
every
law
time
now.
you bring it up, it just depresses me. This is why I think we're here to provide a respite from people.
Oh, right. Provide a respite. So, Giorgio wakes up handcuffed in a safe house with a lock. Don't quite know why she's handcuffed, but okay. She already agreed to work with them a little bit,
Hey,
and they
if that's
taunt
a
each other
lock,
for a little bit.
let's throw away the key, all right?
Tell me about it. And she's like, you need to trust me, but she needs to know what you're not telling me about yourself. And Alok is like, I'm from the 20th century. I was involved in the eugenics wars. I was turned into a super soldier, but I was turned into an augmenter or whatever, or augmented, and now I'm here now. And I guess he was frozen or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
all.
I can piece it. I can
Like
guess.
Khan.
He was
like
like
Khan.
Yeah.
But it's like Khan. But you never see him do anything particularly.
I've read enough fucking Chris Claremont comics to know that I'm like, yeah, I'll just figure it out. It's
Yes,
fine.
exactly. But he never does anything particularly augmented, as far
He
as I can tell.
punches really hard once or twice.
He plays Pokemon
Everyone punches
Go.
hard.
He's really good at Pokemon Go.
He is really good at Pokemon Go. That's true. We see that throughout the movie. He's like, we got to catch that Dotto, but first I got to catch them all. So they leave their hidden bunker. They're on a hidden bunker safe house on the butt end of the universe. And she explains that in her universe, she built a weapon called the God's End, which can incinerate an entire quadrant worth of planets, and it's convenient enough to fit in a box. And again, this is more evidence that she is bad and maybe is beyond redemption, that she is like, we've got to get that weapon I built. I said to destroy it, but it was still your idea to have this quadrant burning weapon. Yeah.
It's like a doomsday device. I mean, it's less, it was intended less as a weapon per se, as more like, hey, if you come kill me, then this whole quadrant is raised, like everything's blown up. You're a ruler of nothing,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's a 1/4 doomsday device.
yeah.
Yes, yeah, because it's just a quadrant. Exactly.
I mean, usually the threat is to the whole galaxy in these movies, so it's nice to see it just like confined to 1/4 of one galaxy.
on a made for Paramount Plus budget, you can't incinerate the whole galaxy. You can only incinerate 1/4 the galaxy.
I don't know. Every single season of Star Trek Discovery would beg to differ. Elliot.
I mean,
Okay.
Paramount Plus sure incinerated those old Daily Show reruns, huh?
Oh boy, damn. Sore subject.
They need to save that room for new seasons of Ink Master and Ink Master All Stars.
You got to put Tracker on there.
Dan, you
Tracks
have to
things,
understand
guys.
that
Dan, that's not even his name. That's what's so fucking crazy.
he should be Jack Tracker. As Comedy Central sheds its husk and goes from being a cable network to being a free-floating spirit.
A wisp. A will-o'-the-wisp.
Yeah, will-o'-the-wisp. It can't hold on to a website anymore. That would be bonkers. I'm never gonna get a box full of 3-cent checks anymore from people clicking on those
Yeah,
videos.
I did I did really love going back and reliving the Bush administration via The Daily Show.
Yeah. I have a book coming out later this year that's about joke writing. It's called Joke Farming. It's coming from University of Chicago Press. And I was rewatching stuff that I had written for The Daily Show so I could use it as examples. And then I was like, well, glad I finished the book before they pulled everything I worked on off the internet and made it inaccessible to me.
Man.
Thanks for that.
Exists ? Who knows?
Dan, it exists on beta tapes that are slowly being demagnetized by the process of entropy over time at the MTV Video Library, which now exists in a dumpster.
It's comforting.
Yeah,
it's a real data no.
We've gone the way of old BBC programs.
Yeah. Well, Dan, think of it this way. Eventually the sun will explode and everything humanity has created will go away. What you worked on The Daily Show, that happened a little early.
Okay. So actually, that's a good question. At this point, did they drag Data No along with them? Like he's Joe Pesci from the Lethal Weapons?
They did exactly that. They lethal weapon Joe Pesci'd him. And we learned that he's an augmenter and so forth. They have the God's End. There's a conversation between our crew about, is it God's End or God's Send? And it's the kind of off-brand Suicide Squad-esque, like Guardians of the Galaxy-esque banter that the movie every now and then jolts into like a car being driven by a teenager who doesn't yet know how to use a stick shift.
Well,
and
yes.
Drastically switching gears at the wrong time.
I'm glad you brought this up because I feel like every review I read of this was talking about how much it wants to be a Suicide Squad style team. And the thing is, I don't want to lay blame at any particular person's feet who's behind this Section 31 movie, but what it is missing is James Gunn leavens that with emotions. I mean, if anything, he ladles on the emotions extra thick to sort of make up for the fact that everything else is quippy. And when it's quippy,
he kills a bunch of baby animals. And
yeah, but
exactly,
not my favorite, but one of those. But and when it's quippy though, it is also quippy in a way that is specific to the characters, whereas everyone here just sort of generally is well, we're in the middle of a quadrant killing situation, but I'm going to make a joke at any point that I can. So that they don't have a dumb guy. Just have it they should have made the fucking robot suit guy just a dumb guy who says he's
one word things.
Guy.
He's pretty dumb, but he's not super dumb. He's not hilariously dumb.
That's the thing.
He doesn't get enough screen time to do anything dumb enough to crystallize what his character even is, I think.
Yeah. Australian? Is that?
No, he's Irish.
Which guy in a suit?
I thought you were talking about
the one with the mech suit.
I
thought you were talking about the wispy guy.
No, not the little guy. His thing, but he's like a wisecracker. But then they're all wisecrackers,
Yeah.
I think that's but if they had made that character really dumb, then I would be like, why is he in the super secret covert spy organization? If he's an
he's
idiot,
got a suit. It's can we take the suit away from him?
Just kill him and take the suit. If you're
put
a Black
it on
Ops
a smart
team,
guy.
No, the idea is that he bonded with this suit that's more powerful than he is, and so he's valuable because they need him because he's in the suit.
Oh, I wish they had done something with that.
I think that's I just made that up, but
okay.
I feel like I've read that story a million times.
I buy that.
Basically Bio Booster Armor Guyver right there.
So they realize they're like, oh, Data No must be from the mirror universe. And they're like, should we trust her? I don't know if we should trust her. This goes on throughout the movie. They're constantly like, I don't know if at any moment you might slit our throats. I don't know if we should trust you. And she's like, yeah, or maybe I will do that. But it doesn't lead to anything, They interrogate Data No. He's suddenly, before he was not a wisecracker. Now he's a wisecracker too. She's like, I am Empress Giorgio, the da-da-da of this, the president of this, the count of this. And he goes, do you get fries with that? And it's like, I guess that is sounds like a joke, but it doesn't. It's like if you picked up like a piece of wax fruit and took a bite out of it, and you'd be like, oh, well, this is not real food. It's such a weird response, but it also means that in the Star Trek universe, they have restaurants that serve fries.
So
with
much
things.
of the fucking quips in this shit, I'm like, Okay, wait. What? Wait, is this like? Do they live in the 20th century? Are they all on social? Are they all on Twitter? Like, what's going on?
If there's one thing I know about Star Trek is that it's constantly referencing 20th century pop culture.
Oh, okay.
Like they're like,
Is that
it's like
true?
that book that or that.
Yeah. Okay,
I guess that's true.
fine.
Everything is
I'm
Moby
being a
Dick.
dick.
I guess that's not
They'll
true.
just
Being
toss
a
in.
dick.
They'll just toss in one extra book and be like, and that was of course from Grathon the Destroyer, his famous book of wisdom. And I'm like, okay, well they added one science fiction-y one in there.
Yeah,
So
Zen and the art of Batleth creation.
Yeah, well, they're always chasing that. They're always chasing that moment when about Hamlet in the original Klingon, which is a genuinely funny joke.
It's so funny.
But Adam, can you tell us, are French fries canon in Universal Star Trek? I mean, a replicator could probably make them, right?
Not that I've ever seen. I mean, it's so weird to have someone as funny as Sam Richardson in a movie deliver dialogue like this. Like, I'm glad he's wearing contacts, because if he weren't, I think you'd just see his soul die
yeah.
standing on this soundstage. It just doesn't seem right.
That being said, I feel like he comes out of it the best. Like he's able to modulate it. Like
for sure.
He does what he can with it.
He's a pro.
Yeah.
But it also
Absolutely.
helps that like we're bringing our good feelings towards him from his other work. So like there's definitely if someone I had never known before was playing that part, I would not have the same affection. I mean, that's why you hire a star with a particular attachment, with a particular feel. But
This is
certainly
why
the whole
Ben
time
could
I'm like,
never get on Fuzz's level, because of his great hatred of Sven Roigrok.
exactly. Thank you for mentioning that. Oh, and I'm gonna have to get into it anyway. So all of his work, his many credits, we're all familiar with them. So Alok and Philippa Giorgio, they both take turns, and also, so his name is Alok. He's from the 20th century. Is Alok what? Is that a real like name? Because it sounds like a Star Trek name.
Real name?
Is that a real name? Is a question you could ask every episode you're watching Star Trek.
Or of any object or person.
Yeah,
You could be like, what do
Well,
words
but I know
mean,
that like
man?
when you have a character named Quasi, and it's like, that character's a shapeshifter. So like I get it, he's Quasi. And there's a character named Fuzz because he's tiny, and then you have a character named Rachel Garrett. Like Rachel Garrett is clearly a
That's pretty
modern
fun.
human name as opposed to Fuzz or Quasi.
Also, it's not like a thing she does. She doesn't Rachel Garrett.
You don't know
like,
that. Maybe she lives in a garret and she Rachels.
Maybe in the series she's always like got concertina wire around guys' necks.
Yeah.
And she can cut hair, but only in one style, only one particular
But that
haircut.
style will sweep the galaxy.
Yes, of course.
What I'm sure you guys don't realize is that Rachel Garrett is a character from Star Trek: The Next Generation. She was the captain of the Enterprise C, which they encountered coming through an accidental rift in time, and they had to send back to their certain doom. So she has like a very tragic end after this, but like
this
I guess
is
like
pretty tragic.
maybe like 2 decades in the future of this character.
Oh, I didn't know that. So it's a little bit like anytime a Spider-Man movie introduces Gwen Stacy, and you're like, like, where are you going with this character?
Sure, this is going to end well.
I'm assuming that future Rachel Garrett, who's now the captain, has every once in a while will stare longingly at the mannequin head in her quarters that has
With the
that
wig
on it and makeup and shit. Yeah.
Her character, they try for an arc with her, and it feels so. We'll get to it, but it feels so incredibly unearned and strange. But they're taking turns beating up Dodano to get information. He goes, "I found that there's a passageway when there's an ion storm in this part of the galaxy. It creates a passageway between our universe and the Terran Empire universe." And he implies that their group has a mole. Then there's an explosion on the ship, it knocks them out. The ship crashes on the surface of the planet. Dodano dies. Everyone else is fine. They're totally okay. I don't know how they got out of the ship, but they not a scratch on them.
Teleported.
Did they teleport? Is that what happened?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's called beaming down, guys.
Oh, they beamed down? Okay.
Sorry, they beamed down, yeah.
And they're like, which one of us is the mole? One of us is the mole. And they've got only 4 hours to get the godsend before the Terran Empire shows up through that ion storm passageway. Oh no, time to split up into mission teams. One team, we're going to go get a derelict garbage ship. That's our new ship. The other team, we're going to go repair the transmitting antenna so we can let the Federation know. But both of these things are missing one piece that makes them work. Oh no, it's not the hit television show One Piece that makes them work, but they're each missing
it was
a piece of
originally a
technology.
popular manga, but yeah.
That's true. That's a very good point. And it starts to seem at first that Zeph is the mole, the guy in the armor suit. Maybe he sabotaged them. He disappears. They go searching for him, and along the way, Alok and Giorgio have a talk about their motives and their need for redemption. So that's good that they got that out. They find Zeph dead. Oh no, he's dead on the ground, and all the evidence points to Lieutenant Garrett. So they handcuff her, but she says, I didn't do it, until they tap into the video footage from his armor suit, and it shows him angrily using his own suit to kill himself.
Yeah. Was there
clearly
any
he's not under
moment?
control.
Was there any moment where you guys didn't assume it was the little guy piloting his next?
Of course not.
There
of course not.
There was no moment at which I thought it was this character, the woman, Abigail Hobbs, who did it. And then once they...
Which is what Hannibal used to great effect in the series.
It's true.
Yeah.
But then once the video shows him like beating himself up in the mech suit, I was so mad at the characters in the movie taking so long to be like, how is this possible? What could have gotten inside the suit? Who on our team lives in a robot suit and pilots a robot suit?
And Greg earlier about being able to go into people's bodies and control their mechanical parts.
There's even a lingering shot of Fuzz that's like 4 seconds too long before this incident that should tip you right off, right?
I mean, that's another way this feels like a TV show instead of a movie, where I feel like in a movie, there's not always, but there's generally a greater assumption or a slightly greater assumption of intelligence on the part of the audience. Whereas a TV show, they constantly are telling you everything.
They know you're folding laundry at the same time. So
Exactly. You're looking at tic-tac-toe and you're not really paying attention.
Foot kink TikTok.
In script writing, you're talking about
than normal TikTok.
Yeah, it's just like OnlyFoots, which is not that different from OnlyFans. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they find the footage, and Giorgio then, like a brilliant detective, only it would take the cunning, devious mind of Philippa Giorgio to understand this, goes through things that we heard, said, and saw done in the episode, flashback montage style, and realizes it was Fuzz. He set his Vulcan robo body on autopilot so he could go into Zeph's suit and control it and pull off mole stuff using Zeph's body. And he takes control of Zeph's exoskeleton and attacks them so he can escape on a rocket sled going through a tunnel. They follow on another rocket sled.
By the way, this is amazing looking.
To be honest, this is my favorite part of the whole movie, is when they're on the rocket sleds, just because it's like everything's moving. At least it's not characters standing around talking about what they're going to do, which I know is a big Star Trek thing. I'm sorry, Ben Adam. I know the main thing with Star Trek is characters having kind of conferences and ad hoc little meetings.
If an episode doesn't have 4 or 5 meetings in it, I am completely disappointed.
No criticism you have of this film will hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, all of those episodes centered around meetings are more interesting than this film.
That's true. I mean,
again, like Conclave is a movie that's like all meetings, and it's super awesome.
I mean, My Dinner with
sled
Andre
scene
is a movie about one
is
meeting.
fucking great. So exciting.
Yes.
Have you guys ever seen the movie? Have you ever seen the movie Hunger? The McQueen movie about the hunger strikes in Ireland, and there's one scene where 2 characters are sitting at a table talking to each other in one shot in the dark for like 20 minutes, and it's amazing. It's such a tense, great dramatic scene because the acting and the writing. And this movie is full of action, but it's Sound of Fury signifying nothing. It's very boring. So rocket sled fight, laser fight. Garrett frees herself. Fight. Anyway, Alok gets knocked off the shed. Quasi saves him by transforming into a big goopy web, which maybe is his real form.
I kind of like that bit.
And Philippa and Fuzz, they end up on a sled hovering high above the planet. Philippa stabs his robot body, and he staggers forward as if he's going to die, which I thought was very funny because it's like a robotic body. Like, it's not stab it all you want. He's a little guy who's hiding inside of it.
Stab the wrong part.
There's a part of me that would have loved if she was like, yeah, I can... You might be really small, but I know how to stab you.
Yeah. And Fuzz reveals that San is alive. He faked his death, and he's going to take the godsend to the Terran Empire. And Fuzz beams out in his full robo body.
The second non-thrilling reveal of the film. You mean, that character that otherwise would have no reason that we keep talking about him?
Yes.
And he's still alive? Great.
The character who only exists in flashbacks, but we're supposed to have invested real emotion into their relationship at this point. On San's ship, now he has Fuzz and the Godsend. He's counting down to when the Ion Storm will allow the Terrans to come through and use the Godsend to invade Federation space. Oh no, this isn't just one quadrant that's in trouble. It's the entire Federation, and it's only up to our ragtag team of not spies exactly, like ragtag team of ruffians, I guess.
It's getting smaller all the time.
It's getting raggier and taggier, this team. Yeah. There's
I
fewer and fewer of them.
I gotta say, like, this is around 20 minutes from the end, right? Where we're at? 'Cause
Yes.
I remember very specifically, like, this movie's 90 minutes.
Yes,
Doesn't feel short in the sense that, like, oh, that time flew by, but it felt short to me in terms of, like, story structure, because right about this time I'm like, okay, well, things are finally just, like, gearing up, like things are kicking into, and I paused and I'm like, there's 20 minutes left, like, so they're right before the climax and then it's gonna be out.
But
like,
again, it feels like we are watching the pilot of a TV show, in which case, okay, let's rush to an inconclusive ending and then we'll continue the adventures. But it's not a pilot of a TV show, it's a movie, so they've got to wrap it all up. And they really
still leave it pretty open.
They do, but the Sand story, like, I could see a version of this where at the end of the pilot they have not gotten the pilot ends with the reveal that this guy Sand is still alive, and then the next episode is reinvesting us in that character, and they're chasing after him or whatever. I don't know how serialized the Star
And then
Trek
there's
shows
like a
are.
bottle episode where Sam is like, I don't know, in school or like working in a diner, and that's the whole episode. And you're like,
Exactly,
what
'cause
does
they
this
ran out of
even
money.
matter? And you're like,
or
but
fuzz
it's,
is inside a bottle.
And
That's
that's
a
the
good bottle
start
episode.
of an actual bottle episode. And the start of season 2 is just a montage of things that happened in the previous season. And then at the end, you're like, well, I guess that was beautiful, but like,
it
what
was
the
a
fuck did I
good
just watch?
episode, dude.
That is a good video installation piece. It is not a good episode of television.
It's a good episode.
Maybe
of
it's just a
television,
different
dude.
type of television than you're used to, Elliot.
Yeah, one that's not about story. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, there's something very impressive about taking the previously on that usually runs before a TV show and stretching it out for the entirety of the episode.
Conceptually, it works pretty well when you consider that we're talking about a restaurant that went from like a local hole-in-the-wall greasy spoon and turned it into this like fine dining spot. So they're just taking all that and repackaging it into something that you don't quite want.
But isn't
Yeah,
that
exactly.
the job of the recap podcasts of the world? Like, why is the TV show
they're
itself
stealing our lunch.
taking that from us?
That's a good point. Once again, big Hollywood moving in and taking away the podcaster's whole raison d'etre. But you can see why an episode like that isn't quite outstanding comedy of the year, the same way the previous hilarious
that's a
seasons
whole
were.
other-
It was funnier, yeah.
The comedy category, that's a whole nother conversation.
It is
But
a
let's get
half-hour
back
long
to-
bit. For anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, we're talking about Le Bear, the television show about a chef who it started out seeming that the show was going to be about a chef who realizes he needs to leave the world of fine dining in order to recapture his soul. But by season 2 decided, actually, we love hanging out with famous chefs. So it is about fine dining and how great it is. And that's where the soul of food is. Not in your hole-in-the-wall places run by families. No, in fine dining. Anyway, so Alok reveals to the others that he was the one who took the pieces of the old derelict ship and the transmitter antenna because he didn't want the mole to escape or transmit or whatever. So they replace the parts. They take off after Sand in a garbage ship. Its only weapon is a tractor beam. What are they going to do? Oh no! Sand starts shooting proton torpedoes at them. Their shields are down. Every Star Trek thing I've ever seen, the shields are always at critical percentages at a certain point. And I can't wait till they finally make those better shields. It seems like they really need them.
That's how the ships come off the lot. Just how they are.
Look, I'd love to give you the better ion shield, the better shield, but that's just how they make them.
Yeah.
We got to get Forge on that.
I think the
Dan,
thing is,
do you think Forge is a Star Trek character? I think
Well,
there's a-
apparently they met each other.
yeah.
because there's Geordie LaForge, who is the Star Trek character, but he's not like an inventor.
Forge and Geordie LaForge should get together.
Yeah, is he
What a
related to
team up.
Giorgio?
It should turn out that Geordie LaForge is a descendant of Forge of the X-Men. That
Of
would
Forge
be,
and
I would love
Philippa
it.
Giorgio.
Forge, Giorgio, LaForge. I mean, that's the team up that we
Forge
want,
and
right?
Philippa Giorgio and Geordie LaForge's fudge. That's the in a shop together.
That sounds delicious. That sounds great. So, ion storms attacking them. It's hurting the ships. Lots of ships bumping around. Explosions. People pretending that they're being rocked as the camera shakes.
Classic.
Philippa talks to Garrett and she goes, "You need to stay calm. You love chaos. Chaos is your favorite thing. I can see inside you're really a chaos dirty girl. You love it." And that unlocks something in Garrett where for the rest of the movie she's just going, "Chaos, I love it. Chaos." And it's like, I wanted to believe that she had somehow used some sort of genocidal mind trick persuasion to break her Garrett's mind and make her this way. But I think it is supposed to be that they've like uncovered the bad girl underneath her book, her by the book facade.
Yeah,
But
she's dedicated herself to the ruinous powers of chaos.
But she's just bonking around yelling chaos in this kind of like the worst version of Harley Quinn, way of doing it.
She is the kind of character that just like says what her characteristics are out loud. Like when you first meet her, she's like, I like being orderly and nice. And they're like, that's all going to change because characters change in this kind of thing. Like,
yeah. You need an arc. So speaking of
it also
arcs,
doesn't make sense that there's like a part of the ship where they keep garbage because they explain that the ship just drags the garbage around outside of itself in space. So why would you also have a hold full of garbage?
Yeah,
maybe the person who owned it.
You found one wrong part of this movie.
Yeah, that should be on the goof section.
Yeah. Why don't we beam over to the goof section?
Yeah, this is a flawless movie. Other than that misunderstanding of how a tractor beam garbage scow works. And so there's Philippa and Alok. They beam onto Sand's ship.
Everybody's fucking beaming. It's
They're all
like
beaming.
Willie Beeman from Any Given Sunday.
Yeah, and
Will he
they're all
beam? Yes, he will.
Yeah.
And Willie Loman, unfortunately, he is a low man. Yeah,
That's true.
See,
it always works.
We're seeing the hidden rules of the galaxy right now.
Yeah, Willie Shakespeare. There is some spear shaking in some of those plays.
Yes.
Yeah, the history ones mostly.
And so, not as much in the romances.
Yeah. Or as futuristic stories.
That's true. The Shakespeare story is set in the Star Trek universe. They don't usually have spears.
Section 31.
I mean, in that respect, Willie Wheaton. I don't know. Like is that like some kind of cultivation?
Situation,
I like it.
Yeah.
Is he grinding it to make bread?
What else are you gonna do with it?
Bones?
Yeah. So there's fighting. I feel like they trade off. They pair off to fight. The Godsend gets triggered. Oh no! Fuzz flies out his Vulcan body in his tiny little ship to kill the others, and I guess he like cuts off the tractor beam or something. To be honest, I didn't care that much about the machinations here. Fight, lots of fighting. And Philippa is like, Sand, you can be good, you can do it. But that doesn't hold any weight with him. Meanwhile, in the garbage, and this is why they need garbage on this scow, Garrett finds a talking doll toy that runs on terrenium, a very dangerous fuel source. It's explosive. And now she can turn it into a bomb that very ironically is talking about let's be friends and all that stuff, which again is kind of Suicide Squad type humor.
Guardians of the Galaxy, Suicide Squad type stuff.
I didn't see Megan. Is this a Megan? This little thing? No?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a Megan. Yeah,
it's kind of Megan-y. Yeah. It is kind of Megan-y. Terrenium, is that a thing that comes up in other Star Trek stuff, or they just make that up?
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's outlawed in the galaxy in the Federation for a reason.
That's why you never heard of it, I guess. Yeah.
No Terrenium, no Megans. Both banned.
I mean, Data's kind of a big Megan,
He
right?
kind of is.
He is a Megan.
Yeah.
Have you seen him dance? Terrible.
I've seen Brent Spiner dance, but I've never seen Data dance. Okay.
There's a whole episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where the Doctor character teaches Data to dance, and it's terrifying. The way Megan's dancing is also terrifying.
Also, but terrifying because you're like, that looks awesome. I wish I could dance like that.
Yeah.
So they're all fighting. Quasi, he has trouble making decisions. We know that. He has to choose between two buttons. One of them will open the cargo bay, and one of them will self-destruct the garbage ship.
Self-destruct the garbage ship.
And Garrett helps him just make a choice. Thankfully, he picks the right button. Alok defeats the autopilot Fuzzbot, but then he gets, and Fuzzbot escapes. Fuzz has escaped, but he gets blown up in his ship by this toy weapon doll that flies into him. Sand is about to kill Philippa, and she kills him instead. But she feels bad about it, and they reconcile a little, and they declare their love for each other. And you guys were really moved by this moment when you were watching it, right?
Mm-hmm. I found it baffling that the show / movie thought that we would be invested in this romance between two murderers who have not shared the screen together in this form until this moment.
I do kind of like that he dies because she kicks his sword and it accidentally cuts his throat. I think that's kind of funny.
I mean, it's the closest thing I feel like to the kind of thing you would have seen in an old-fashioned Michelle Yeoh movie, like a Yes Madam or something like that, where there's lots of clever fight choreography and stuff like that. The bad guys are all dead. Wonderful. I'm amazed. I'm always amazed. I should say there are other movies that in this same general runtime can really make you feel for the characters and feel their relationships and feel what they feel for each other. but this one just doesn't. It just can't pull it off in the same way, and that's the magic of the movies. That I guess some movies can pull off and some can't. Anyway, long story short, they fly Sans ship into the Ion Gateway and then set off the Godsend. Take that, Terran Empire. You're the ones whose quadrant got vaporized. What a bunch of heroes. They beam to the garbage ship at the last moment. The passageway collapses. The Federation space is safe. And 3 weeks later, Philippa is back at her club, and she has accepted the offer to join them in Section 31. And they've
She's
got
wearing
a new,
different cool outfit, which I'm
great
happy
outfit.
about. Yeah.
And Fuzz's wife, Wisp, joins them. That's right. They have a different person inside the Vulcan robot body because they had a duplicate, I guess. And they get a call from their boss, Control, who has another mission for them. And their boss is Jamie Lee Curtis. Speaking of the bear and cameos, it's Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
Speaking
Reuniting.
of movies that Michelle Yeoh won Oscars for and movies that she is about to win Oscars for.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I guess this probably isn't eligible because it didn't screen in theaters.
No, this is not eligible for an Oscar, also for quality reasons. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So wait a minute. Jamie Lee Curtis was in Yes, Madam and won a Academy Award for fight choreography?
Yeah, exactly. She was in which trio? What's the trio? Why am I forgetting the name of it?
Heroic Trio?
The Heroic Trio. Thank you. Yeah, she's in the Heroic Trio.
She's in Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars.
And so they're off on their next mission, and the entire space nightclub flies off to go on a spy
I thought
mission.
was pretty cool.
But I love the idea of it's like, look, we're spies, remember? So let's take our huge nightclub with us as we go on this espionage mission. And that's,
I also love the idea though that they're like, yeah, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go out for a drink or two after work to this cool space nightclub, and then after a couple of drinks, you're like, where the fuck am I? We're in a completely different sector of space.
But so it's set up. It's now future adventures for Section 31 in the Star Trek universe. So Ben, Adam, what else can we expect to see from these characters and their Section 31 adventures and misadventures?
The next planet that they're going to is a horrible place. Like it has a reputation in the Star Trek universe that is not good. It's not fun or funny. So it's it's just more of the same. Like, hey, these genocidal maniacs are just going to go have a romp in another nightmare place, and we're all going to love it.
I think the thing that doesn't quite come through in the summary is just how often they remind you that Michelle Yeoh's character is a genocidal monster. And they seem to think it makes her seem like a badass, like that she's a tough, badass wild card you can't trust, but it just makes her seem like a villain.
Yeah.
And so it's just a very, it's like if
even her genocides aren't by the rules.
It's like if in every Superman movie after Man of Steel, they kept going, remember all those people you killed when you were fighting Zod? Like to build up Superman and make him more heroic.
Yeah.
I guess they kind of do in some ways because they kill people. Superman kills people in those movies, right? Just there's that scene in Batman vs Superman where Superman is waiting behind a guy at the bank in line and he just reaches over and snaps his neck so that he doesn't have to wait anymore and walks up to the teller.
Yeah, Garth Ennis
really
wrote
weird
that
one.
scene.
Garth Ennis wrote this. They brought him in for one day.
Yeah. Do some punch up.
So let's do our final judgments, whether this is a good bad movie, a bad movie, or a movie you kind of liked. I'm just gonna quickly start by saying, when I saw the promos for this, I was like, oh man, it's a Michelle Yeoh centric Star Trek thing with Sam Richardson in it. I like all of those things. I'm gonna, I can't imagine I won't have at least a baseline of fun watching this, and the movie showed me the error of my ways. Because this is bad. I had a really good time talking about it with you guys, but
You didn't have that good a time talking about it with.
It feels like I said this on Letterboxd. Actually, it feels like it's made up of spare parts from other science fiction things, but weirdly, none of those things are Star Trek. Like, it both is just sort of generic, and it doesn't feel like part of the universe it's in, even if it makes reference to various Star Trek things throughout. As a Star Trek outsider, I feel like that's been one of the criticisms that's been levied at Star Trek for the last few years, with obviously some exceptions. But is that there's like an identity problem, and that they are trying to be something that they're not. They're trying to be Star Wars or trying to be something else, and or in this case, like Guardians of the Galaxy.
And it doesn't quite work. And the camera movements are really disorienting, and I do not care for them. It's all the dialogue is the most like written by AI. Quippy bullshit, like the sort of thing that it felt like somebody was like, they fed in a bunch of episodes of fucking Buffy to like a chat GPT, and they're like, okay, give us some zingers.
Why you had
please.
to insult Buffy in the course?
I'm just saying that if like I feel like Joss Whedon is the like grandfather of this type of like
yes, and him specifically, I'm not going to defend as a person.
I don't know.
Really, because
when we went out for
Mike, you
drinks
had a
the
lot
other
of good
day,
things to say about him.
But that series was
Buffy is responsible for a vampire genocide, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that one of the main stories of Buffy?
I think that you start to wade into
bad. I'm saying bad.
Yeah, you start to wade into difficult waters anytime you take a fantasy or science fiction thing that is against an entire race of creature, and you start to really think about what that means when you give personalities to characters and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to say, unsurprisingly, Bad. It's just a really boring movie. It's just very boring, and I'm not super well versed in a lot of Star Trek stuff. It's a franchise that I've always wanted to be into more than I'm actually into it for its own reasons, but I would have loved for this to have been, for me to have trouble with it for those reasons rather than the trouble I did have with it, which was for it being kind of boring and kind of uninspired.
And I like some of the costumes.
I mean, I will say, like, whoever did like the production work on it, it looks really good, especially for what's essentially a TV movie. It does look like money was put into it. The costumes are really cool. I don't feel like any of the performances are like necessarily bad performances. They're just kind of like not given much to do, you know. But it does feel wrong-headed in some way. If it's going to fail, it should fail on Star Trek's terms rather than on. So, I mean, while watching it, if you had said, "Oh, actually, that's like a Star Wars Disney Plus movie that they accidentally put Star Trek words into," I'd be like, "Yeah, I still don't like it, but it feels more like that." Yeah. But what do you guys think? Now, I'm ready for your full-throated defense of Star Trek Section 31.
That's what we came here to do.
Ben and I reviewed this film on our hit new Star Trek show, Greatest Trek, about a month ago. And I typically, like, when I know I'm going to guest on another show, I will, like, do the work of watching the thing once or twice, because I watch the thing once or twice when I do my own show. And it's so bad, I couldn't watch the movie again before doing Flophouse with you guys. My body rejected it, so I didn't.
Wow.
And like Dan read his Letterboxd review, here's mine. Paramount CBS. I have this amazing ingredient that everyone loves, but I need to use it before it expires. And then marinates it in battery acid and cooks it for 5 years. Why aren't you eating? Why doesn't anyone like it? This is how they've wasted Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
So my review is in script form.
And now, Ben, having heard all three of us rag on it, I'm ready again for your full-throated defense of Star Trek Section 31.
This movie is solid as Sears, gentlemen, and let me tell you why. No, I mean, I think that what everyone has said summarizes it really well. Like, I think that, like, from a production standpoint, it looks like great for a TV movie. The costumes, Gersha Phillips is the costume designer on Star Trek Discovery as well, and is just like an incredible talent who's done, I mean, like her other thing this year so far is the new Captain America movie. Like she's like a megawatt talent that Star Trek is incredibly lucky to have. As
How are the
Michelle
costumes
Yeoh.
in that, Dan? I haven't seen that yet.
I can't say that I really noticed them, but they didn't look bad. I
heard the Red Hulk costume looks good. Is that true?
It's mostly just pants.
Okay, cool.
All
Yeah,
the
pretty
actors
good pants, right?
in Section 31 look healthy and nourished, so catering probably did a great job.
Catering was
On
solid.
the movie, they're happy to have the catering company.
Thank you, Crafty.
Everyone's in the movie. They didn't get lost. So all
Sure.
the PAs that were walking
Great
from
job.
the parking lot to the
The
set, they did great.
go-karts that they depended on, great
Drove
go-kart
them.
company.
Oh, they didn't have go-karts for
set.
this one. Maybe for Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
Nobody else got go-karts, yeah.
I did rewatch the movie today to prepare.
Cool. Somebody's got
So
time
this
to
is
kill.
the third time I've seen Section 31.
Oh,
I think I
wow.
may have seen Section 31 more than anyone on planet Earth.
He's gonna get an email. From Paramount Plus, they're like, "Sir, are you sick?
Are you sharing your account with other people?
Is there something wrong with your app? Because you can watch other things."
Send you a bunch of Section 31 swag.
The only
this is stuff we
technical services support department that will reach out to you proactively.
The watching of Star Trek Section 31 multiple times, it triggers our "is Jigsaw keeping you prisoner" protocol. Please just blink 3 times. We'll see you through the TV camera.
If you guys saw the recent M. Night Shyamalan film Trap, I'm the guy in the basement that he keeps looking at on the video stream on his phone.
Wow. Oh, the butcher.
Yeah. One thing I thought about this time that hadn't occurred to me yet was
the fleeting nature of life.
the lady that played young Georgiou did an amazing job doing Michelle Yeoh's accent. And I was like, wow, like she is doing a really solid Michelle Yeoh without it being like an impression of Michelle Yeoh. Like, I believe that this person grew up to be that person. Mm-hmm. And like, that is such a small little thing for me to like have my fingernails on and that's a good thing about this.
But I love this kindness, Ben, because I feel like we normally don't want to be too mean here, even as we're laughing about bad movies. And I like that you're highlighting, the sweet inside the ocean of sour. Ben
is the hang in there poster of bad movie watching.
I wish this was good bad, like if I think that's the thing that Star Trek and all other franchises fuck up is like, if you have all of the ingredients but you don't have a great idea, go for good bad. Don't go for good with no idea. Like make it corny and silly and fun. Like, Star Trek being corny is the fucking Briar Patch. We love that. That's part of the brand. Embrace it,
Yeah.
Like, hire actual comedy writers to come in and write bits for Sam Richardson to do. Like, don't leave it to a writer that does like kind of overcooked dramatic sci-fi series and has never written a movie before.
Yeah.
And that's not to like dick on the writer specifically. I think that like the writer is one of the many places where this movie fails, but it's like it's so heartbreaking to see so many great ingredients get cooked in battery acid.
Yeah, it is. It's always too bad when something that has lasted for a very long time for a specific reason. They're like, this has to be cool now, and I feel like one of the really great decisions in the Marvel movies, for instance, was not being like Captain America has to be cool now, but instead being like, let's have him be the character that he is, and we'll just find the things about that are impressive, rather than, okay, well, guess what? He's kind of a badass. He's not really about America. He's about partying.
This movie, the last audible line in this movie as we like fade away and watch all the ships go to warp is a "Yo Mama" joke. And it's just
that's right.
That is so like, that like is the crux of what is wrong with this movie, I think.
Because in the utopian world of Star Trek, people respect their mothers and respect other people's mothers.
Gene Roddenberry would never have stood for this going under the Star Trek banner.
Walking About is the podcast about walking. It's a walkumentary series where I, Alan McLeod, and a fun, friendly guest go for a walkabout. You'll learn about interesting people and places and have the kind of conversations you can only have on foot. We've got guests like Lauren Lapkus.
I figured something out about this map, like how to read it.
Betsy Sidaro.
I had no clue. That's awesome and nuts.
John Gabris.
This is like great first date for like broke 20-somethings,
And more. Check out Walking About with Alan McLeod on Maximum Fun.
The following is a promo for Beef and Dairy Network podcast.
Hello, please, you have to help me. I was kidnapped and bundled into the back of a van. I was taken to the docks and beaten with chains and tied up inside a shipping container. And then I was forced to listen to episode after episode of a podcast called Beef and Dairy Network. and I absolutely loved every second of it. Please, you have to tell me where I can listen to more episodes.
The Beef and Dairy Network podcast is a multi-award-winning comedy podcast, and you can find it at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, this is Dan recording a little after the fact, recording alone. So, this ad read might get a little weird. That's the way it happens sometimes. I'm warning you. Also, this episode is supported in part by Squarespace. Well, what is Squarespace, you may ask yourself? And well, you may ask, they're the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs? I don't know. To stand out and succeed online. They offer an unrivaled suite of visual design effects built in and ready to go on any Squarespace website. You don't want to be messing around trying to figure out what visual design effects you want to have. You want them to be pre-made, locked and loaded, ready to eat. Design effects, Squarespace. I'm doing it. Create an elevated online aesthetic with dozens of modern and intuitive options that fit every brand, industry, and purpose. And you can connect major social and multimedia accounts to your website in a few clicks as icons, direct links, or embedded feeds. Build visitor trust while updating content only where you need it, extending your brand's footprint. So, you're living in this modern world. You want a website. You want success. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you are ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/flop to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Also, this episode is sponsored in part by Rocket Money. Pew! That's a rocket. I mean, it really sounds more like a laser, but in my head, it's a rocket. The start of the new year is a perfect time to get organized, set goals, and prioritize what matters most. If one of your top priorities is financial wellness, and why wouldn't it be? Rocket Money can help you make your goals achievable. It's a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spendings, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. I saw someone online laughing, scoffing at the idea that they had unwanted, unknown subscriptions. My friend, if that's the way you're living your life, you're a better man than I. Because I know that I have had subscriptions I had forgotten about, that this helped me find and say, no, thank you. Not anymore. Easily create a personalized budget with custom categories to help keep your spending on track. See your monthly spending trends in which category to see where your money is going. And Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So, if this interests you, why not cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money? Go to rocketmoney.com/flop today. That's rocketmoney.com/flop. rocketmoney.com/flop. And before I return you to the belly of our Star Trek show, I do have a Jumbotron. Jumbotron? Jesus. Jumbotron. Jumbotron. This message is for Joe Mello, last name not withheld. It's from Katie. And it says, and for this I will change my weirdly aggressive tone of voice to something more appropriate for this very sweet message. Katie says to Joe, happy birthday to a wonderful husband and father. Thank you for working so hard for us. Thanks for helping us all through this rough patch. And thanks for introducing me to the Flophouse. From your loving wife, Katie. That is very, very sweet. Thank you to both of you for listening. Thank you for doing this message. Keep on keeping on, even though this ad break will stop keeping on right now. Hey, let's move on to letters from listeners.
Why not?
This first letter is from Patrick, last name withheld, who writes.
Patrick Dempsey, Step by Step.
Patrick?
No, that's not Patrick. No, that's Patrick. What's the Patrick from Step by Step?
I do not know.
Yeah.
Let's spend time on it. Patrick
Okay.
Duffy, is that who you're
Patrick
talking about?
Duffy. Yeah, Patrick
The
Duffy.
man from
Suzanne
Atlantis.
Summers, find out.
Yeah, Patrick. Yes, Dan from Man. You're right. You wouldn't remember him from the sitcom he was on for years. You remember him from Man from Atlantis. Yeah, exactly.
Well, the sitcom was sort of like the most bland fuzz of a sitcom, whereas Man from Atlantis is a weird show.
Yeah, that's true. It's from Atlantis.
Anyway.
A man, a plan, a drowned society, Atlantis. Is that anything?
Works.
It works.
It's a
Okay.
palindrome.
Yeah.
Both ways.
Don't check out don't check it out. Patrick, last name withheld, writes, you may have seen wonderful quotes from Michael Rooker about the poor state of audiences' attention spans after the underperformance of Kevin Costner's magnum opus, Horizon Part 1, Chapter 1, based on the novel Pushed by Sapphire, or whatever it's called. His old man yells at Cloud approach is silly, but I kind of admire his defense of the project, even if that defense is the same short attention span argument I've been hearing since MTV or since D.W. Griffith called widescreen only good for funerals and snakes. But
Imagine if you were making a movie called Snake Funeral, though.
Oh, boy.
You want the widest screen, yeah.
We've got to get these motherfucking snakes out this motherfucking grave.
You need a really wide screen, but it needs to be kind of short, too, so you get it.
Do you listen to the Snake Funeral album? Did you?
Snake Funeral's my fucking favorite
Yeah,
album
that does
of the
sound
year.
like something you love. I'm imagining how Samuel Jackson's giving the eulogy and he goes, I'm tired of not having these motherfucking snakes in my motherfucking life. And then he bursts into tears.
Yeah.
You know?
When you go to a snake mortuary, it's just a bunch of tube mailers of different construction.
Pee Wee Herman is there holding them at arm's length.
Put them in a pneumatic tube to send them over to the graveyard.
Anyway, Patrick writes, but as all of us head into our mid or late 40s, I'm sure we all find ourselves trending towards the grumpy old man when it comes to modern media digestion. So my question is this. When was the first time you remember having a grumpy old man opinion about a movie? And I was thinking that I really jumped on the grumpy old man early because
it was about the movie Grumpy Old Men, right?
Yeah.
It was a similar year.
It was the sequel, and he was like, they're not grumpier. They're the same amount of grumpy as the first time.
You promised an increased amount of grumpiness.
With inflation, I paid more to see less grumpiness.
My grumpy dollar is bringing me less now. Yeah.
No,
Let me
Dan
explain
used to be
basic
so
economics.
fucking cool, right?
He's talking to the teenage ticket taker at the theater. Let me explain basic economics to you, young man.
No, Space Jam. When Space Jam came out, I was like, these are not the Looney Tunes I know and love.
Yeah, that's pretty
This is a cynical
cool.
way to, put basketball star Michael Jordan with some cartoon characters and have them act totally off model, and so. And
what happened to the pure Bugs Looney Tunes movies of yesteryear, like Quackbusters and Fantastic Island?
Yeah.
I wonder how similar.
Fantastic Island fucking rocks.
I wonder how similar all of our answers are going to be to something like that. Like the thing I grew up with is no longer the thing that I'm seeing, because my example was going to be the Transformers movie, Michael Bay's movie from 2007. I came away from that feeling very grandpa for the same reason.
You're like, the real ones masturbated to the hot cartoon robot Transformer guys.
Exactly.
They didn't need a Megan Fox.
No, yeah.
Yeah. I felt like when they cast girls as Ghostbusters, it really was a problem for me.
No. Not even.
I have a slightly different one, which is I'm sure I've had that same reaction before, and I've tried to let go of it of like, this isn't the way I did things. But I think the one where I felt it the most strong was when I went to see Guardians of the Galaxy. Speaking of movies that really want to be Guardians of the Galaxy, when I went to see the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, which was trying so hard to be Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And my reaction to so much of it was like, why all the swearing? Why do they have to keep swearing in this?
That's actually pretty old man of you.
That is
very old man.
I found myself legitimately offended in a way I didn't expect when at the end Star-Lord goes, "We're the Guardians of the Galaxy, bitch." I was like, I don't like it. Like I kind of shivered and shuddered, and I was like, I don't like that. I don't like it. So I think
You
that was
seem
the
like
moment
such a
for
nice
me.
boy.
And I think it's because by that point, it's just like to show some respect to other people. I think it was by that point that I was a dad, and so I was like, oh, at some point, I know kids are seeing this movie, and at some point, kids are going to see it. And whereas in the past, I might have been like, yeah, who cares if kids are going to see it? Like they need to grow up. It's fine. I was like, I don't know. And then I remember not long after that, walking by a toy store, in the window they had the Guardians toys,
and it said,
all the
the Guardians of the Galaxy are here, bitch.
it was the talking doll that just says bitch, bitch, bitch. But seeing that all the accessories that they came with were just guns, and it was another one of those moments where I'm like, ooh, I don't like this. I don't like that. When I was a kid, I loved toy guns, but like the idea that I don't want my kids playing with something where it's just guns. So I think that's when I felt like an old man, grumpy old man. Yeah.
To talk about what you said though before, like I've gotten to a point, I think, mostly where I'm not like, oh, this isn't the way that I liked it. Because, why are you going to do something if you don't have, like, a spin on it? We already have the old thing.
Yeah.
But I do find it easier to feel that way when we've had, like, a good movie version of something. Like, we didn't have, like, a good movie version of Looney Tunes. So I'm like, what the fuck is this? Whereas, like, with my beloved Sherlock Holmes, like there's been so many Sherlock Holmes things. I'm like, yeah, do whatever the fuck you want with that property. Like,
that's kind of like how I can't be offended by like a wrong-headed Shakespeare production because it's like, don't worry, you're going to see thousands more of this play. So whereas if there's a bad production of like Stephen Sondheim's Pacific Overtures, I'm like, I may never see this again. When are they going to revive this show?
That's sort of, I mean, like in our Star Trek corner of the mediascape, like that's kind of how it feels like now, where there are specific versions of Star Trek that are very close to my heart, and I think over the years I have learned to like not get that bent out of shape about it when they do one that doesn't quite fit what I love about the thing I love, because it's like, I mean, like there are 17 different TV shows that are called Star Trek now, and 25 movies, and it's like, okay, some of them are going to be like perfect for me, and others aren't, and who gives a shit when they aren't? I don't like own the Paramount Corporation. I don't get to call the shots.
But if you did,
Hold on.
This is interesting.
Then you'd probably put something other than Section 31 on the app to watch over and over again. Yeah.
Okay, well let's move on to the next letter so we can.
There's another letter.
It's from Teresa, last name withheld, who writes, subject, live-action cartoon characters. Hi, floppers.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, read the letter, Dan, because that phrase doesn't make any sense to me.
Hi, floppers.
I mean, Jim Carrey's kind of a live-action cartoon.
Yeah, good point. Wow. He totally is.
Stuart, some people don't have the bravery to say shit like that.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I had a strange dream that involved Elliot disclosing that he had been cast to voice the character of Tweety Bird in a Looney Tunes live-action movie.
I'll do it. Miscasting, but I'll do it. Yeah.
Chris Pratt was not part of this ensemble for once.
It made me. I'm listening.
It made me wonder two things.
So Garfield's not one of the fucking Looney Tunes, apparently?
Stuart, I hate to break it to you.
Mario isn't one of the Looney Tunes now?
Again, Stuart, I hate to break it to
you. It made me wonder two things. One, would Elliot even make a good Tweety Bird? I say yes.
No,
and
I don't
two,
think so. Oh, okay.
Two, what cartoon characters would Dan, Stuart, and Elliot appropriately voice in their live-action adaptations? Teresa, the last name withheld. And I have to say that, not originally a cartoon, but probably best known as a cartoon. Of course, Eeyore. Of course, for me, Eeyore would be what I would choose.
Yeah, I could do that.
You're totally an Eeyore. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Wait, are we doing like any cartoon character forever all the time?
It was not. Looney Tunes was the door into
Captain Caveman. I'm Captain Caveman then, guys.
Yeah.
I'm a little hairy guy with a club surrounded by babes. Yep, that's me.
Yep, that's you, all right. And the club is technological. Like you can open it up and there's high-tech stuff inside of it.
I don't understand that shit. I'm just a caveman, dude.
Good point.
I am a captain, though. So respect my rank, please.
I guess.
Thank you for your service on the seas. You can perform weddings, I guess, when we're on your boat. Or ship. I'm sorry, sir. Ship.
Yeah, you've never seen that in the show, but it was a deleted
Most of the episodes are about Captain Caveman performing wedding ceremonies.
It's the happy privilege of cavemen everywhere.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to pick one that might be a little out of the ordinary because I feel like I don't have a I don't have a voice in my head for it already, but for pre-existing. But I'm going to say Felix the Cat. I think I could do a real good Felix the Cat if he was like he was in the old cartoons, where he's just he's just stirring up shit, just doing wacky stuff. He's real annoying.
For a second, I thought he was talking about Fritz the Cat. I'm like, I don't think that's appropriate for Elliot.
So also, I'll be Fritz the Cat, because you know me, I'm all about that, kind of the scummier side of the alternative 60s, 70s lifestyle.
Does Felix talk though? Like, I feel like in word balloons in the really old cartoons, maybe.
I think they did some later ones where he talked, but yeah.
And this, of course, our guests are welcome to jump in if you guys have.
Also, wait, I'm going to do one more. Also, Popeye's nephews or children. I don't remember how they were related, but those three Popeye kids from the kind of 50s Popeye cartoons. I could do that. That'd be amazing. Yeah. So yeah, what do you guys think? What cartoon character should be, Ben and Adam?
Oh man, we get to choose two.
Yeah, join the fun.
Fuck.
Jump in the pool.
I was just sitting here enjoying listening to one of my favorite podcasts, The Flophouse, not thinking about what my answer would be.
You have to. Now you're in the hot seat, baby.
I'm going to participate in the show we're guesting on and say my favorite cartoon growing up was The Real Ghostbusters. And I think I would want to be one of the voices to like Venkman or something.
Sure.
I could pull that off, right? Do we have to be animal cartoons? Is that
they just said cartoon characters, right? Captain Caveman. Well, I guess he's the link between man and animal. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Metaphorically. Yeah.
That's going to be my answer.
Okay.
Do you remember the television cartoon Exo Squad? Did anybody catch this cartoon?
I remember the name, but I can't say I've ever watched it.
Sounds cool.
I really liked the toys because they were it was like little robot suits that you get like little G.I. Joe, and you stick him in his robot suit, and then he's, can shoot, spring-loaded missiles and things. And I think the show was about how they had to build these robot suits to defend them against their genetically engineered slave race that had risen up to...
I think you're right.
Wow.
Love this.
Okay.
It really ages well.
Concepts that wasn't interrogated that much.
Did every episode conclude with like a diary entry being read and like XOXO squad?
Yeah, these were squad goals to me back in the day, but mostly because I wanted a cool robot suit. So maybe maybe we'll do kind of like a re-examination of the concept through Reboot. So it'll be an Exo Squad where it's like, man, like, are we the baddies? Is kind of the premise.
Yeah.
And I get to have a robot suit.
Yeah, and you'll be the one who doesn't care when he realizes he may be a baddie because, the price of eggs is lower for him if he kills all the slave race.
Or higher. I don't really give a shit.
Yeah. As long as I got this suit.
Yeah.
Let's tie everything up with our final segment, recommendations of movies you might have a better time watching than Section 31.
Impossible.
I'm going to pull an Elliot. I'm going to recommend a movie from the 30s.
Dan, hey, hands off. I'm married.
He could do it. He's pretty charming.
Yeah, that's true. He could pull me.
I could do it.
Dan, you can pull me anytime.
Thanks. Wow.
What a turnaround.
Yeah, it really didn't seem like you needed much convincing. This is a movie that's on...
It's a woman's prerogative to change her mind, Danielle.
This is on Criterion right now. I've enjoyed a few movies in the Claudette Colbert collection. There's one directed by Ernst Lubitsch called Bluebeard's Eighth Wife. And what struck me about this is how many old comedies are at heart very kinky. Like it's barely under the surface. Like the main sort of plot of this is that Claudette Colbert marries this very wealthy man and learns that she's to be his eighth wife, and she doesn't want to be divorced like all of the other wives, and she goes about sort of insinuating herself deeper into his heart it is heavily implied essentially by like not fucking him at all and then making him feel like he's being cuckolded. And so she's bratting her way into his heart and loins. And it's very funny though, and light as 30s comedies are. And it's 85 minutes. a wonderful length for a film to be.
Perfect.
Less than a Section 31.
So I enjoyed it quite a bit. Stuart?
Okay, I'm going to recommend, I'm also going to dip deep into the archives of old-timey movies. I'm going to recommend a movie from 1989.
Wow.
I know. Careful. Get on your readers, grandpas. I'm recommending Troop Beverly Hills, starring Shelley Long, a movie that I remember seeing in the theater and being like, I love this movie when I was a child, and I had not seen it since. And then I watched it recently, and you know what, guys? I still love this movie. It was probably one of the only comedies out there that is a snobs versus slobs comedy, and you are rooting for the snobs. It's about a group of effectively Girl Scouts in Beverly Hills who are mistreated because they are rich and like kooky, whereas the other Girl Scouts who are from other parts of LA, actually like know how to do wilderness stuff. Shelley Long plays a woman who is going through the process of divorcing Craig T. Nelson, which has got to be a challenge because he was Coach. And Shelley Long is so fucking funny and hot, and her like outfits are great. The costumes in this movie are incredible, and the way that like they use the costumes to like tell the story is so funny, and it has so many like famous LA people from the time. Like you got your Robin Leach and whatnot. It's great. 2 thumbs up. Troop Beverly Hills, just as good as it was back then. Check it out.
I think you'll find, Stuart, that it's a Carla Gugino movie.
It has a very young Carla Gugino in it, which is pretty fun.
All right, Elliot.
Sure, I'll go next. I would like to recommend a movie that it's kind of like Troop Beverly Hills. It's called Chilly Scenes of Winter. Anyway, it's from 1979. It's listed as a romantic comedy, but it's more of a romantic drama with funny moments. And it's written and directed by Joan Micklin Silver, who also made like Crossing Delancey and Hester Street. And I've just been on a tear of hers lately. And stars John Hurd and Mary Beth Hurt. And it's about John Hurd is a guy who has just ended or had an affair end on him. He was having an affair with a married woman. He fell in love with her and she ended it. And he cannot shake her from his head. And it starts out seeming like it's going to be like a kind of wry romantic comedy about this guy who like maybe he has to find someone new to get over her, or maybe he's going to win her back. And as the movie, fairly early on, but especially as it keeps going, the movie makes it clear he has a not fully sane or stable obsession with her. And I would describe the character as like high-functioning Travis Bickle. Like he's going into madness, but nobody is noticing, as opposed to Travis Bickle, where it's obvious to everybody. And I really liked it. It felt like one of these movies that was kind of not going as far as it could potentially, but was diving into emotional territory that I'm not used to seeing in a movie. And I thought it was really, really good. And I just like Joan Micklin Silver's movies a lot. So I would recommend it. I would say there's the version that I also saw on Criterion Collection. It's called Chilly Scenes of Winter. It was originally released with a happy ending as Head Over Heels. And so if you find a version of it that's called Head Over Heels, that is not exactly the same movie.
Wow.
Find the one that's called Chilly Scenes of Winter. And also I'll point out there's a John Hurd's character's mother, who is a kind of aging woman who's kind of losing her grip on reality, is played by Hollywood noir great Gloria Graham. And there's something exciting about seeing Gloria Graham at this kind of different stage in her career, but still playing a character who is like an intensely wounded woman who's trying for a glamour that she can't quite attain because of that wounding. So it was nice the way that this movie played into the rest of her filmography. So that's Chilly Scenes of Winter. Dan?
I'm just going to go around the Zoom as I see it and say, Adam, do you have something to recommend?
I do. I've been on kind of a Damien Chazelle kick lately, and one of the films that I missed was Babylon, and I watched that for the first time very recently. And let me just say that if you watch...
I may have to interrupt this recommendation. I'm not sure. Anyway, continue talking, Adam. It's fine.
If you watch one film that begins with 500 gallons of elephant shit dumping onto a character in the first 2 minutes of the film, make it Babylon.
Oh, that's weird. Elliot didn't like that movie?
I was surprised by this film throughout, and I thought the chances of being like truly surprised by a modern film were like that wasn't going to happen. But I loved the movie. I loved the experience watching it. At 3 hours and 10 minutes, it felt shorter than Section 31 to me.
Wow.
It just absolutely zoomed. I thought it was a delight. I know it's not for everyone, but I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Ben, jump in so Elliot doesn't.
So I'm going to start jumping into about how one of those not for everyone's is me.
I don't know if my recommendation is for everyone, but I just was on the Criterion app last weekend and randomly watched a movie called Down with Love, which is a 2003 rom-com starring Renee Zellweger and Ewan McGregor, and that makes it sound incredibly basic in a way that it just isn't. It's like a weird pastiche of a much older kind of film, like a Rock Hudson,
60s,
Doris Day, Tony Randall film specifically, and has a lot of fun, like celebrating the aesthetics of that while kind of roasting it at the same time. And the thing I love about the rom-coms of that era are that the characters are on such even footing in terms of their like power on the screen. Like the women are just as capable and fast talking and interesting as the men, and this definitely has that, but kind of fucks with your expectations of like what they're gonna want and when and for what reasons all the way through. And so it's like a little bit of a mess, but like I popped like a 2.5 milligram jazz gummy and ate my dinner and drank a glass of wine and just enjoyed the hell out of it.
It's so fun, and it's candy colored. And Peyton Reed, he made that, and he made Bring It On back in the day. I'm like, this guy's going places. And then Marvel snapped him up years later for the Ant-Man series.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Strong recommendation. It's on the Criterion Channel app right now.
That's 5 very classy recommendations.
Mm-hmm. Equally classy. Adam and Ben, before we let you go, what would you like to plug?
Oh, if you like hearing people talk about good Star Trek things, we do it all the time on our 2 podcasts right here on the Maximum Fun Network, The Greatest Generation and Greatest Trek. That's I think that's all we've got to plug, really.
Nice and easy. Speaking of the Maximum Fun Network, go over to MaximumFun.org. Check out all the great podcasts over there. As this drops, we're gearing up for the Max Fun Drive. We got, a bunch of stuff in store for that, and some fun surprises and pitches to make to you. We're not going to make surprises to you. That doesn't make sense. But anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. So
really.
I'm saying look at the Max Fun Network
surprises?
If you like good podcasts. And
Stuart, we've got to talk about putting Dan in a home.
Lovely network. Thank you to producer Alex Smith, who we're going to be sending 5 different audio tracks to slam together.
And who knows how many surprises that we've made. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be like Jared Leto during the Joker. The Joker movie.
It was a Suicide Squad movie, but yeah. He was playing the Joker. Again, Stuart, all the signs are here. We got to take the keys away from Dan.
Okay, before I drive us further off the rails, drive off the rails? Is that a thing that happened?
Oh, boy. I mean, they drive off the train rails in Groundhog Day in one scene, so I'll pretend you're talking about that, but I'll know that really it's time to move you out.
The other day, he was calling me his brother John, and I just didn't want to correct him.
Thank you for listening. I've been Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
I'm a very concerned Elliot Kalin, and we've been joined by
Adam Pranica.
Thank you for being here. Bye.
Mwah, mwah,
mwah. On this episode, we discuss Star Trek Section 31. Couldn't even keep a straight face. Just the name of the movie.
Yeah. The idea it exists. You want to try one more time? I'll have a dumb joke that's the obvious joke, but.
On this episode, we discuss Star Trek Section 31.
Dan, I haven't seen Star Trek Section, Star Trek Section 2, or any of the movies through Star Trek Section 30. Sorry, my mouth was so horrified at the hacky joke I was doing that it tried to stop it from happening.
Okay, I mean, it'll be great for the end of the episode.
Yep.
Maximum Fun.
A worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
supported
Directly
by you.